let's bring in our political panel. April Chapman is a Project 21 ambassador, and Bill Caruso is a Democrat strategist. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good morning. So here's more of what President Trump had to say in Qatar.
No visit in the Gulf would be complete without stopping to salute the people who keep America safe, strong, and free, and the patriots of the United States Army, Navy, Space Force. I love Space Force. That's I have to say, that's my little baby. You know, I started that. They said, that will never work. Oh, it worked. You know, we were way behind Russia and China, and now we're way, way ahead of everybody. So Space Force, I'm very happy. That was my, you know, not since the Air Force has that happened. So we created a force, and it's a big force, and it's a brilliant force. So Space Force, thank you for doing such a great job. The Marines, and of course, the United States Air Force. Al Udeid is the home of the legendary 379th Air Expeditionary Wing, known as the Grand Slam Wing. We also have the 1st Expeditionary Theater Support Group. You got them all. And let's not forget the top-notch Army soldiers from the 11th Air Defense Artillery, the Imperial Brigade. Thank you, fellas. That's great. We also have the 8th Expeditionary Air Mobility Squadron, known as Mighty Ochos. Where are the Ochos? We don't want to fight with them. All of you are the tip of the spear. You're the finest we have. Anywhere in the world, you're the finest we have. You're the finest anyone has in the fight against the enemies of civilization.
Well, that's quite a speech to those troops there. Again, good morning. April, what are your first thoughts on President Trump's speech there to the troops, as well as his initial first 2 stops?
Yeah, President Trump has just proven to be the people's president. His military loves him. Overwhelmingly, the nation is responding positively to his leadership. For Trump to go over to the Middle East and to have all of these other olive branch type meetings, and then to stop by and to speak with the military there is so refreshing, because for so long Americans have been weak and not really presenting a position of strength. But here we see an alpha male, something that this country has been begging for, addressing the military here in such a warm and welcoming manner. I think it's amazing to see.
It is, and he even brought special guest Lee Greenwood was performing live, as well as Theo Vaughn. So, because Barron said it would be nice to bring some comedy, some lightness to the Middle East. But President Trump also praising Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on stage, who he gave this friendly and grateful greeting to the U.S. troops.
I look out into this audience, and I truly see the eyes of American strength, the eyes of American deterrence, the eyes of Americans who put America first. So on behalf of a grateful nation, I want to thank you for your willingness to take the prime of your life to raise your right hand to defend our Constitution and our great nation.
Bill, your reaction.
Well, listen, you know, this is, I think, one of Hegseth's strengths. I mean, he was there. He's been in that role, and he knows the value of having that type of support up top and having the commander-in-chief, you know, come pay some respect to these folks that are, you know, literally serving on the front lines of freedom and putting their lives, and by the way, disrupting their families' lives back at home. There's children at home. There's spouses at home. You know, these folks lead their lives to go protect ours. So this is all very good. But I do want to come back to this. This is sort of kind of what we expect. There's a flurry of activity going on in the Middle East right now, which, listen, I'm an American. I think this is good. I think there's positive work going on here. But back at home, and this is the problem for the former administration, are people feeling this? Are people feeling the success? Are people feeling the economic benefit? And that's really going to be the challenge, not only for this president, but for this Congress, right, as they're dealing with budget issues here back at home and other things. And we do have some global turmoil right now. We've got an issue still going on in Israel and the Middle East. We've got an issue going on in Ukraine. We've got the issues going on with the tariff wars that are, you know, being debated and being discussed. But this is good. This is positive. And but overall, is this going to move needles back at home towards the American public? And are they going to feel this success? And are they going to feel the benefits here? and how soon will that, or how long will it take for that to happen?
Yeah, Bill, those are fair points. But what I would say, what I've seen is that the amount of trillions of dollars of investment, the American people will feel it. And especially if you're a line worker for Boeing,
yes,
you have some, job security, at least for the time being, building a lot of planes, and we know Boeing had some problem. But moving on, April, so the president is now headed to Dubai, where he's expected to lay out his global mission. What are you expecting from the last leg of his trip? Obviously, the first two legs, from my perspective, was very powerful. What do you expect from the last leg?
I don't expect anything less. President Trump, he is an ultimate deal breaker and negotiator. We've already seen him extend these olive branches, urging people who at once were our enemy, listen, stop the bloodshed. Let's come to the table. Let's be friends. Let's do peace. And above all else, let's do some commerce. Everyone's going to win here. And so I think it's a good opportunity. He needs to we have a president who can do both and. Yes, we do have domestic issues, and those issues are being addressed. But we also have a lot of international turmoil that needs to be curtailed. And President Trump is doing that. He's not Sleepy Joe. He is not asleep at the wheel. He is way more awake than we've seen any other previous commander-in-chief. So I'm looking forward to seeing what types of commerce, positive results from the commerce and trade that he's going to leverage over there because of his relationships with so many of these foreign leaders.
Exactly. Commerce, not conflict, is what his new mantra is. Bill, we have learned, unfortunately, that the meeting between Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky is no longer happening today in Turkey. And of course, President Trump, of course, is not going there as a result, or, one would think as a result of this. What do you make of the latest with respect to these peace talks?
Well, I think it's all related. I want to come back to something April just said. I think this is a positive move here. Commerce rather than conflict, as you just eloquently said, my friend, is a good thing back at home, too. And if we can improve commerce here, that will help lift boats at home as well. But the global turmoil is still the issue. And there are these pockets of problems that still exist. And, my side of the aisle is going to continue to tag the president who said on day one, right before, as soon as the election happened, these issues are going to be settled. I didn't take him at his word, okay? That's hyperbole, but they're still not settled. And the question for Donald Trump right now, for our president and for our strength, right? This is what we're talking about here is he going to get played a fool by Putin here? And if that happens, he's got a real issue, because what do we do then, right? If we're drawing red lines and we're saying, hey, it's put up or shut up time, do we walk away and just throw our hands up? That looks like a defeat for us. Or how does he pull Putin back to the table here? Time will tell.
Yep, exactly. Really good points.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty, that's for sure. And the world has always, unfortunately, been unstable. But we're hoping for the best, and maybe there'll be surprise in this last leg. April, what are your thoughts on the current conflict or ongoing conflict, the Ukraine-Russia? And do you see any resolution happening anytime in the near future?
I think what we do need to do is at least acknowledge that President Trump has moved the needle forward more than anyone else as it relates to trying to strike a peace deal. Before, we had a commander-in-chief who there were no talks of there being any peace from either side. And just in a little over 100 days, there's been some progress, measurable progress, not as much as I would have liked to have seen. But in light of the level of conflict and the brink that we were almost on the edge of experiencing in terms of violence and more bloodshed, I think we need to give him a little bit more time. I think he understands the nature and the extent of what's at stake. I don't believe that Putin is as hostile as we're making him out to be. He is just looking out for his people, just like President Trump is looking out for us. What we have to do is figure out the best way to make a deal, a peace deal that is a win-win for all parties involved. And President Trump is good at that. I think we just need to give it a little bit more time.
Bill, just going back to some of your points, I appreciate the fact that you said that the Democrats are saying, why didn't you follow through with this deal day one? Of course, President Trump was speaking in hyperbole. That's all part of art of the deal. In case you haven't read the book, it's time to read it, everyone, because it explains everything we're seeing play out before our eyes. But I do have to push back with respect to Putin and even with respect to Iran. President Trump is no fool here. He knows exactly the players who he's dealing with. I do not think he's going to be taken advantage of by our adversaries, because it's just, finally, we're even seeing Vladimir Putin, for better or for worse. I mean, he literally gave President Trump a photograph, or a picture rather, of him, the assassination attempt. So world leaders are coming to the table respecting President Trump. And even the latest news is that we are having some really serious negotiations with Iran. And they seem to be coming to the table with respect to the nuclear deal. Bill, what say you?
So I'm hopeful, okay? And I think you know that about me. I'm willing to bright side anything we possibly can on behalf of what's good for our country. I disagree with both you and April, though, on Putin's intentions here, and I think there's a lot of Republicans that are skeptical, too. I trust the president to some extent to go try to negotiate the best deal possible. But by the way, that can't be too many concessions for Ukraine. We can't be rewarding Russia's aggression. That said, he's on precarious ground right now, our president, because if Putin plays him like a fool, I just don't know what other options we have. But I do agree with this. Continuing to fund an ongoing war and regardless of whether it was American lives that were being provided there or just American dollars, it was bloodshed that could not be sustained over time. So we need to find peace. I'm just worried that Putin isn't going to ever look for peace. And at some point, we've got to put up or shut up. And I'm not sure what other options President Trump has if Putin doesn't play games here.
Yeah, I think we still have a few sanction options with respect to banking and shutting down any more of their energy exports, because Russia runs on energy.
Yes.
But I want to just take a step back and go rewind history a little bit. You know, back under former President Obama, he went to the Middle East and had a listening tour where he basically went around, from my perspective, went around and apologizing. Now we have President Trump. He's doing a CEO roadshow. Come on and invest in the U.S. because we're the USA. You want to be part of what we have. April, what do you make of that contrast?
You know, I think it's funny. We have two things going on, and I'll just explain what I mean. You have this Bible verse that says the love of money is the root of all evil. And then there's this other verse that says money answers all things. Here we're seeing these two verses in equal tension. President Trump is using money and commerce as this tool to initiate a broader scope, a broader discussion about commerce to create these major wins for all the parties involved. And then on the flip side, it should also remind us that money can be used as a tool to accomplish good or evil in the world. And so therefore, President Trump is allowing these major superpowers to come to the table, some who may be motivated or corrupted by greed. But at the end of the day, we have to remember that money and commerce can serve us well, or it can be our servant, and it can destroy us or become our master. Which one it's going to end up being, it remains to be seen.
And President Trump says everyone can have a piece of the pie here. It's not just us. Yes, America first, but the Middle East, he's showing a prosperous future for the Middle East, Bill, whether it's through technology or just trade and even removing some of the sanctions, as we saw that he did with Syria. So I think that this really is a message that resounds with everyone. Final thoughts to you.
Yeah, and it resounds with this Democrat, too. And let's end on a positive here. America is the best brand ever, 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 period, full stop. And we've got a great salesman out there, and this president going around the world to talk about that. The days of American apologism are over. American excellence on all sides of the aisle, wherever you want to talk about, is here, it's back, and it's great. And I don't think we need to apologize for that any longer. I think what we're doing here is selling our best around the globe and asking them to bring their best here. And it is true that through commerce and through coordination, we can have peace. We can have global trade. We can have all the things we want to do. We can have prosperity at home. The point, though, is hope springs eternal right now. A lot of good actions, a lot of good words. Want to see the deals? and want to start to see the job creation that we're talking about here at Boeing and other places back home, that's going to start feel, and people will feel in their purses and pocketbooks and wallets. That's where this is really going to transcend. And I think we all should be hopeful about that.
Oh, great points, great points. April, Chapman, and Bill Caruso, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Have a great
Awesome.
day, guys.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.